Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an idea about power that's, well, it's pretty unsettling. What if the people you trust the most, your friends, are actually your biggest liability? Yep, that's law number 2 from Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. And right away, it just feels wrong, doesn't it? It goes against everything we're taught about loyalty and friendship. Don't trust friends? Use enemies? It sounds cold, calculated, and just deeply cynical. And that really is the big question, right? To get it, you kind of have to push your feelings aside for a minute and think like a pure strategist. This law argues that in the high-stakes game of power, emotion isn't just a weakness, it's a massive liability. All right, so let's dig into the first piece of this law, the dangerous friend. The argument here is that the very things that make a friendship great, the informality, the emotion, can become a total trap when power gets involved. Okay, so what's so fascinating here is just how stark this comparison is. Look at the friends column. Decisions get messy, right? You might hire someone because you want to help them out, not because they're the best person for the job. And then there's that unspoken envy that can just simmer under the surface. Plus, you're always a little hesitant to give them real hard criticism because, you don't want to hurt their feelings. But then you flip over to the enemy side, and it's a completely different game. A former enemy has everything to prove. Their loyalty isn't just assumed, it has to be earned through their actions. And that, weirdly enough, can make them way more reliable and transparent than a friend. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. History is absolutely full of cautionary tales. Let's talk about one of the most tragic ones, a Byzantine emperor who completely ignored this law and paid the ultimate price for it. It's such a classic story of betrayal. So you've got Emperor Michael III. He feels this immense debt of gratitude to a guy named Basilius, just a simple stable boy who happened to save his life. But here's where he makes his fatal mistake. He confuses that gratitude with real earned loyalty. He plucks Basilius from total obscurity and raises him up to the absolute peak of power, even making him co-emperor. But see, Michael didn't create a loyal ally, he created a rival. Basilius wasn't happy playing second fiddle. He wanted the whole kingdom. And by putting all his trust in his friend, Michael literally created the monster that would sneak into his room and murder him in his sleep. So here's the absolute heart of the issue. Unearned gifts, unearned power, they don't create loyalty. More often than not, they just create a massive sense of entitlement. Michael gave his friend everything and asked for nothing back. And in doing that, he basically signed his own death warrant. Basilius started to see that power as something he was owed, not something he was given. Okay, but what happens when a leader does the complete opposite? What if they look at their so-called friends with a healthy dose of suspicion and instead see opportunity in their enemies? Well, let's look at a ruler who totally mastered this law. So check this out. Emperor Sung of China. He knew right from the start that his biggest threat wasn't some foreign king, it was his own powerful generals. His supposed friends, who were most likely to stab him in the back for the throne. But instead of fighting them, he does something absolutely brilliant. He throws this huge, lavish banquet and basically convinces them all to retire. In exchange, a life of total luxury. He bought them off. Then, after he defeats a rival king, a guy named Liu, he doesn't execute him. No, he gives him an honored post right there in his own court. Now, why would he do that? Because King Liu had everything to prove and absolutely nowhere else to turn. His very survival now depended on being loyal to Sung. And the results of that strategy? Well, they speak for themselves. Before Emperor Sung, dynasties in China were just a revolving door. They'd rise and fall every 20, maybe 50 years, almost always ripped apart by betrayal from within. But by getting his friends out of the way and putting his former enemies to work, the Sung dynasty lasted for over 300 years. The proof, as they say, is right there in the history books. Okay, so we've got these two powerful stories from history. But how does this ancient, kind of cold-blooded logic actually apply to us, today? Let's try to build a modern playbook you could use in your career or your own business. The playbook is actually surprisingly simple. First, step 1, keep your distance professionally. Be friendly, sure, but never let friendship be the deciding factor in a crucial decision. Step 2, hire people based on merit, not because you're your buddy. And if you absolutely must hire a friend, you have to make the power dynamic, the hierarchy, brutally clear from day one. And finally, step 3, leverage the enemy. Don't write off your rivals. Think about it. A competitor you bring onto your team, they're often going to work harder and with more focus than anyone else because they are constantly trying to prove that they deserved that second chance. But like any good rule of power, this one isn't absolute. There are exceptions. Rare, risky situations where using a friend isn't just an option, it's a strategic necessity. So the question is, are friends always a liability? And the short answer is no. But the exceptions are very specific and honestly, they're pretty dark. The law basically points to two high-risk scenarios where a friend's trust can be turned into a weapon, but it takes a kind of ruthlessness that, frankly, most people don't have. And these two exceptions, they're intense. The first is for dirty work. If you have a task that is, let's say, morally or legally gray, a friend can be useful because the shared risk of mutual destruction ensures you both keep your mouth shut. The other, and this is even more cynical, is the scapegoat. A friend can be set up to take the fall for a mistake precisely because their trust in you makes them an easy target. I mean, these are desperate, ruthless moves, but they show that in the cold, hard math of power, even something as sacred as friendship can be seen as just another tool in the toolbox. And really, that's the core question this law forces you to wrestle with. It's not telling you to be a bad person. It's asking you to understand the messy, complicated currents of human nature, things like envy, ambition, and that incredible drive people have to prove their own worth. It's asking you to look at your circle not just with your heart, but with strategic clarity. So the next time you're about to place your trust in someone, just ask yourself, are they a comfortable friend, or are they a motivated enemy?